Okay, happy Friday, everybody. It is July 5th, 2024, and happy belated Independence Day. This is PreciseAlgorithmTrading.com, and this will be my daily review, although I skipped a day or so here because of the shortened holiday trading week. We had the half a day on Wednesday of trading, and then closed really yesterday, and then for the 4th of July. And then today was a full trading day, which is kind of weird. Um, but let's get right into it. So our automated trading systems are doing great, and the Dow futures here have gone a little flat, but no big deal. Um, we'll look at the third and the fourth. So three down trades, no big deal. Three little down trades, and then the Russell here, um, which is really ready for prime time at this point. I could maybe do a couple more things to it, but it's pretty much it. Um, between 7.3 and 7.4, it's had a more of a pullback drawdown than anything else. But if you look here, that's just this. So, but the real news is this Nasdaq taking off like this. We went sideways for a bit, and then we've just taken off, which is great. That's what this thing does. It goes sideways. This is like a month's worth of sideways there. This is a month's worth of sideways, which is rough to take, but when it takes off like this, it's a really nice deal because you get, trades in a row like that. And all these little stop outs, in fact, that this is the one from the third. Yeah, all of the ones from the third. All these little stop outs don't mean anything when you start adding up like this. And that's the point of this. So, if you've been following us for a while, this is the same math as we've been using, except we tightened it up and made it so that the downside is not near as much, which just makes the equity curve go a lot more, up. And yeah, you might get stopped out of some potential trades along the way, but in the scheme of things, um, this fits my personality better to be able to not take the big drawdowns. I'd rather go sideways or draw down a little bit than some of the ones we've shared in the past. So, but the big thing is it's the same math. It's wild that it turned out like this. Um, all right, so that's the automated trading systems, and yes, they do trade themselves. You have to turn them on and off, but they fire themselves, which is one of my favorite things. So, back here to our automated or our I'm sorry, manual trading systems. Everything is this was the train tracks I've been talking about, and then it looks like they've decided to take off, and it almost makes sense that that's taken off when most of the people aren't managing the markets. Most of the people have taken vacation, so it's like that's when prices will move. Now, I won't say they'll always move bullishly because I've seen it go the other way, but it's wild that that's how prices get going, or can sometimes. So obviously the markets are still moving higher. We've got bullish momentum here. We've got we're looking for that average, around 3 or 4%. That's gonna, that's played out over the last 10 years. Not really um, a guarantee. It's certainly not a guarantee. It's just the way that it's played out over the last as much a time frame as I want to put on here. If I put 20 years on here, it's still 3.72%. Um, if I put 5 years on here, it's 3.46, and if I put 4 years on here, it's 4.34. So, and look at that, the unbalanced volume shows up. I don't know why. That's a restriction of the system apparently. So, I'm going to leave this in 4 years just because I want to see the unbalanced volume when we go through the markets. So the S&P 500 today went up 30 points, or 0.5%. The Russell I'm sorry, let's go to the Dow. The Dow went up 25 points. Oh, sorry, 67 points. 25 by the end of the day, with the futures falling off. Might be, yeah. So it fell off a little bit. If we look at the actual Dow chart, it was a nice bullish. I'll call that a hammer because it probably meets the definition of it. But then it sold off at the end of the day pretty well. I mean, just you have to look at like a really short term here. Let's do it. 1 minute chart. That's what it did at the end of the day. Probably have to open up extended hours. There you go. That's what I'm talking about. So, flip this back to daily. With that extended hour, or with extended hours showing, it's a doji. So, and that's just fine. So we're on to, that's the Dow. Let's look at the Russell. So the Russell on the futures is red, but very sideways, and we're in a squeeze with volumes that's popping pretty good, but it could go in either direction. And we have turned gray over here on the monthly chart, but we're only a few days into this, so we'll have to watch that. And actually, I want to look at the IWM. So the Russell went actually down 9.89 points today. I've got all these lines drawn on the IWM with, look at that, that's pretty wild. How it came down, touched the lower diagonal line there. This is all part of a triangle pattern that I've got drawn on here. Touched that line, looks like it rejected from it, and now we'll see where it goes. This one doesn't have that negativity that the futures do, and I think that's okay. I've heard in the past from different coaches, follow the futures more than the ETFs. However, I think the ETFs showing this, especially since they don't trade after hours the same way futures do, I think that's it. I'm just going to say it's fine. Doesn't mean I'm not going to react if things start to go down. I'm only really risking, because I got into this thing on this pullback, around 3%. If this thing closes back underneath the blue line on the monthly chart over here, that's going to be 3 to 5% or thereabouts. And that's the risk. And if this thing falls out of this pattern and actually takes out this 2 ATR to the downside, well, that is the blue line. That's the same as that blue line. So we'd be hitting, and if that thing closes underneath there, I'll just get out. But we do have a bullish future cloud, and there's a number of other things, reasons why I want to be in this for now, including this target, which may never get there, or may not get there this cycle, but even structure-wise, this pivot took out the previous pivot to the upside on the monthly chart. So I think that's a tell. All right, and finally the NASDAQ went up a bunch today. 164 points on the actual NASDAQ index. The futures went up 180. And that's what obviously drove my automated trading as well. So, I don't know if I've talked about this. I redrew or rebuilt a momentum indicator. It's kind of a short-term, long-term type thing. And it's actually pretty good. So if anybody wants to reach out about that, I can certainly share, but I'm using it for short-term, intermediate term, and longer term signals. And just out of for like a quick look, this yellow arrow and that yellow arrow up and down, um, they don't exactly correspond with when the bars go from red to green, but you can certainly say, well, when this bar went to green, this one, we already had this momentum traveling higher, and you can see it also didn't really pull back um, until, I mean, this arrow right here. If you take this trade from when this turned green to when that arrow happened, you'd be up money. That's really the bottom line, and that's all we're trying to do here. It's really not rocket science. Here's an arrow up from there, and an arrow down right there, and that would also have been money. And it works on any chart. In fact, I think we're done with the futures there. So let's look at oil. So I'm looking to get into oil if this thing will pull back. But again, look here, we got a arrow up. Now you got arrows up and down that go sideways there, and it's a bit of chop, and that's why I've got the more than just arrows, but I got a number of other things going on. But you got the green bars that go up, then you get the pullback, and it didn't take out any previous pivots or even previous bars, and then it took off again, and that's been a nice run that I wish I was in. Well, now it's throwing an arrow down, so I'm looking for a way to get in to this. And you can also see we're having breakouts over here on the monthly chart, and I'm using that on the monthly chart similarly. We haven't crossed back under, and yada yada yada, and we do have a bullish future cloud. So that's oil, and it works the same way with probably gold. Yep. I mean, it's just a momentum indicator. There's momentum in price, there's momentum in volume. So, and that's how I prefer to trade. I don't want to say like to trade, but prefer to trade. And you almost can't hide from momentum. The other direction too, it cuts both ways. So another little trick is when this green to red line, which is just an average, moves above zero or below zero, you have a better shot at staying bullish as well. So like this whole move, even though it's been sideways, was above zero on the monthly chart, and that aids in this whole thing going sideways to up. So, alright, that's gold. TLT for bonds. Just trying to get back up there. Let's look at BITO. Bitcoin fell apart. This would have been a great example for me to have shorted when I got stopped out, but oh well. Coinbase. It's actually a pretty bullish looking chart. We got earnings coming up here, so I'm not looking necessarily to get into it. However, it still looks pretty good on a monthly and structural basis this way. Just for fun, here's uranium that I've been playing to the long side a lot, and now I'm in short. So we'll see how it plays, but everything here makes me want to be short. And look at here, we got a down arrow. That's only a week into this month, but I mean that's kind of the idea. And we also had this big red candle. So I'm only really, again, risking that 3%. If this thing gets above that line um, on a monthly basis, then I'll get out. But we got a bearish future cloud. Not a lot of reason to be bullish in uranium right now. All right, I'm going to move on to, here's the VIX, and the VIX is low but just chopping sideways. That's helping this whole market go really sideways to up. And then finally, let's go to the bullish percent indexes and wrap this thing up. Here's the industrials. They didn't move. The NYA. This is today. I obviously didn't show yesterday, and I'm not going to, or Thursday or Wednesday, but we had some movement on Wednesday. The transportation index didn't move. The NASDAQ up 0.48%. The, whoops, I don't usually do that till the end. The S&P 500 minus 1.43%. The S&P 100 rolled over to a new column of O's today. Maybe that's the one I was thinking about. Minus 1.54%. And the NASDAQ 100 didn't move. So nothing crazy bullish and nothing crazy bearish, and really that's what I'm waiting for, is to see something that breaks out one way or the other. I'm going to say sort of unexpectedly, and I'm going to try to follow that trend. So that's what I got. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you again next week.